The human body is a cluster of many organs and mechanisms. Furthermore, for the entire body to function consistently, there are various factors and elements that need to work in tandem in order to supply the much needed energy to the body. Thus, some of the essential macronutrients which work as storehouse of the energy for the body to perform its day-to-day functions are fats, proteins, and carbohydrates. Both carbohydrates and lipids have huge biological importance. Carbohydrates make up 50% of the Earth's biomass and are extremely popular for their functions such as energy storage, cell wall structure in the plants, and other functions such as fertilization and cell union. Carbohydrate-protein complexes function in cell-to-cell recognition process as well as adhesion of cells to neighboring cells and the extracellular matrix. Also, the lipids play some critical functions in the human body. They are responsible for storage of energy, provide insulation to cell membrane, give the much needed shape and outline to the body and protect the internal organs. They also are metabolic regulators and are the electronic insulators of neuron and also help in the absorption of fat-soluble vitamins. Thus, the importance of carbohydrates and lipids in the living organisms is quite clear from the above discussions. In this chapter, we will understand the basics of carbohydrates and lipids and also delve into their classifications, structure, and their clinical importance in the human life. Definition of carbohydrates and lipids. Carbohydrates are naturally occurring compounds that are derived from organic compounds. Common substances such as wood, starch, and linen were found to be composed mainly of molecules containing atoms of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, and to have the general formula C6H12O6. Other organic molecules with similar formulas were found to have a similar ratio of hydrogen to oxygen. The general formula is CxH2OY is commonly used to represent many carbohydrates, which means watered carbon, where X and Y are whole numbers whose values differ based on the specific carbohydrate. One of the most abundant and widespread organic substances in nature is the carbohydrate, and they are indispensable constituents of all living things. One of the major processes of formation of carbohydrates is the photosynthesis and is formed by green plants from carbon dioxide and water. Carbohydrates serve organisms as energy sources and as important structural components. In addition, part of the structure of nucleic acids, which contain genetic information, consists of carbohydrate. Lipids are also an extension of wider class of organic products found in living organisms. Most are insoluble in water but soluble in non-polar solvents. The definition does not include the mineral oils and the other petroleum products obtained from fossil material. Foremost classes of lipids include the fatty acids, the glycerol-derived lipids, including the fats and the oils, and the phospholipids. The sphingosine-derived lipids include the ceramides, cerebrosides, and gangliosides, and sphingomyelins. The steroids and their derivatives, the terpenes and their derivatives, certain aromatic compounds, and long-chain alcohol and waxes. In living organisms, lipids form the basis of cell membrane and function as repository for fuel storage, which then drives the body to perform all its activities. Often, lipids are found combined with proteins or carbohydrates, and the resulting substance are known as lipoproteins and lipopolysaccharides. The fat-soluble vitamins can be classified as lipids. Liposomes are spherical vesicles formed by mixing lipids with water or water solutions. They have found their use in the oral administration of some drugs, for example insulin and some cancer drugs. Since they retain their wholesomeness until they are broken down by the lipases in the stomach and small intestine. Conclusively, lipids are a diverse group of organic compounds, including fats, oils, hormones, and certain components of membranes that are grouped together because they do not interact amicably with water. One type of lipid, the triglycerides, is impounded as fat in adipose cell, which serve as energy storage depot for organisms and also provide thermal insulation. Some lipids, such as steroid hormones, serve as chemical carriers between cells, tissues, and organs, and other exchange signals between biochemical systems within a single cell. The membrane of cells and organelles structure within the cells are microscopically thin structure formed from two layers of phospholipid molecules. Membranes function to separate individual cells from their environments and to compartmentalize the cell interior into structures that carry out special functions. Hence, the functions of compartmentalizing the membrane and the lipids that constitute them are critical enough to the origin and sustenance of life. Classification and structure of carbohydrates. Even though a number of classification schemes have been developed for carbohydrates, the division into four major groups, which is monosaccharide, disaccharide, oligosaccharides, and polysaccharides, is used most commonly. Most monosaccharides, or simple sugar, are found in grapes, the other fruits, and honey. Though they can contain from 3 to 9 carbon atoms, the most common representatives consist of 5 or 6, joined together to form a chain-like molecule. Three of the most important simple sugars, glucose, also known as dextrose, grape sugar, and corn sugar, fructose, which is fruit sugar, and galactose have the same molecular formula, which is C6H12O6. But because their atoms have different structural arrangements, the sugars have different characteristics. That is, they are isomers. Slight variations in the structural arrangements are visible in living things and influence the biological significance of isomeric compounds. It is known, for example, that the degree of sweetness of various sugars differs according to the arrangement of the hydroxyl groups, that is OH, that compose part of their molecule structure. Though a direct correlation that may exist between taste and any specific structural arrangement has not yet been established. That is, it is not yet possible to foresee the taste of a sugar by knowing its specific structural arrangement. The energy in the chemical bonds of the glucose indirectly supplies most living things with a major part of the energy that is necessary for them to carry on their activities. Galactose, which is rarely found as a simple sugar, is usually combined with the other simple sugars in order to form larger molecules. A disaccharide is formed when two molecules of a simple sugar are linked to each other. The disaccharide, sucrose, or table sugar consists of one molecule of glucose, one molecule of fructose, and one familiar sources of sucrose are sugar beets and cane sugar. Other disaccharides are milk sugar or lactose and maltose. The molecules must be broken down into their respective monosaccharides before the energy in disaccharides can be utilized by living organisms. One of the rarest forms is the oligosaccharides, which consist of 3 to 6 monosaccharide units. They are rather occasionally found in natural sources, although a few plant derivatives have been acknowledged. Polysaccharides, which mean many sugars, signify most of the structural and energy reserve carbohydrates found in nature. They are large molecules that may consist of as many as 10,000 monosaccharide units linked together. Polysaccharides may vary significantly in size, in structural complexity, and in sugar content. Several hundred distinct types have been identified so far. Cellulose, the principal structure component of plants, is a complex polysaccharide comprising many glucose units linked together. It is the most common polysaccharide. The starch found in plants and the glycogen found in the animals also is complex glucose polysaccharide. Starch is found mostly in seeds, roots, and stems, where it resides as an available energy source for plants. Plant starch may be processed into foods such as bread, or it may be consumed directly like potatoes. Glycogen, which consists of branching chains of glucose molecules, is found in the liver and muscle of the higher animals and is stored as an energy source. The generic nomenclature ending for monosaccharides is OSE. Thus, the term pentose, pent which means 5, is used for monosaccharides containing 5 carbon atoms, and hexose, hex means 6, is used for those containing 6. In addition, because the monosaccharides contain a chemically reactive group, that is an aldehydo group, they are frequently referred to as aldopentoses or ketopentoses or aldohexoses or ketohexoses. In the examples, the aldehydo group is at a position 1 of aldopentose and the keto group is at position 2 of the ketohexose. Glucose is an aldohexose, that is, it contains 6 carbon atoms, and the chemically reactive group is an aldehydo group. Classification and structure of lipids. As discussed earlier, lipids are a group of compounds which contain long chain aliphatic hydrocarbons, cyclic or acyclic, and their derivatives such as acids, which could be fatty acids, alcohols, amines, amino alcohols, and aldehydes. The presence of the long aliphatic chain as the characteristic component of lipids grants distinct solubility properties on the simpler members of this class of naturally occurring compounds. They are commonly classified into 3 groups. Simple lipids, for example, neutral fats and triglycerol or triglyceride and waxes. Compound lipids, for example, phospholipids such as lecithin, glycolipids and lipoproteins, and derived lipids. For example, fatty acids such as oleic acid and stearic acid, steroids such as cholesterol and estrogen, and hydrocarbons. The lipids are further classified into the following groups. Types of simple lipids. Triglycerides or fats and oils are fatty acids, esters of glycerol. Examples are lard, corn oil, cottonseed oil and butter. Waxes are fatty acids, esters of long chain alcohols. Examples are beeswax, spermaceti and carnauba wax. Steroids are lipids derived from partially or completely hydrogenated phenanthrene. Examples are cholesterol and ergosterol. Types of complex lipids. Phosphatides and phospholipids are lipids which contain phosphorus and in many cases nitrogen. Examples are lecithin, cephalin and phosphatidylinositol. Glycolipids are lipids which contain carbohydrates residues. Examples are steroyl glycosides, cerebrosides and plant photoglycolipids. Sphingolipids are lipids containing the long chain amino alcohol sphingosine and its derivatives. Examples are sphingomyelins, ceramides and cerebrosides. All living cells have lipids. However, the proportion varies from tissue to tissue. The triglycerides collect in certain areas such as adipose tissues, in the human being and in the seeds of plants, where they represent a type of energy storage. The more complex lipids occur closely linked with the protein in the membrane of the cell and of subcellular particles. Tissues which are more active generally have higher complex lipid content. For example, the brain, liver, kidney, lung and blood contain the highest concentration of phosphatides in the mammal. Fatty acids are the members of the class of compounds known as carboxylic acids. They are composed of hydrocarbon chain with the terminal carboxyl group COOH. The portion of the carboxylic acid not including the hydroxyl, that is OH group, is called an acyl group. Under physiological conditions in water, this acidic group usually has lost a hydrogen ion, that is H+, to form a negatively charged carboxylate group, that is COO. Most biological fatty acids contain an even number of carbon atoms because the biosynthetic part common to all organisms involve chemically linking 2 carbon units together, although relatively small amounts of odd number fatty acids do occur in some organisms. The chemical structure of the ionized form of stearic acid, that is C18, is shown in the figure below. C18 indicates a hydrocarbon chain with 18 carbon atoms, though the molecule as a whole is a water insoluble by virtue of its hydrophobic hydrocarbon chain. The negatively charged carboxylate is hydrophilic. This common form of biological lipids, one that contains well separated hydrophobic and hydrophilic parts, is called amphipathic. Along with the straight chain hydrocarbons, fatty acids may also contain pairs of carbons linked by one or more double bonds. Methyl branches, or a 3-carbon cyclopropane ring near the center of the carbon chain. Clinical significance of carbohydrates. The carbohydrates play a very significant role in the lives of living organisms. The source of energy and the reserve of the energy of most animals and plants are both carbohydrate and lipid in nature. Carbohydrates are generally available as an instant energy source, whereas lipids act as a long-term energy resource and tend to be utilized at a slower rate. Glucose, the prevalent, not combined or free sugar circulating in the blood of the higher animals, is essential to cell function. The proper regulation of glucose metabolism is of principal importance to survival. The ability of some living beings such as cattle, sheep and goat to convert the polysaccharides present in grass and similar feed into protein provides a major source of protein for humans. A number of medically important antibiotics such as streptomycin are derived from carbohydrate. The cellulose in plant is used to manufacture paper, wood, for constructions and fabrics. Clinical significance of lipids. Lipids are often portrayed in the negative light as they are considered as the source of degenerative diseases such as heart disease and cancer, which are major causes of death in the developed world. The pessimistic view of the lipids has concealed their importance for human health. Lipids are important for maintenance of human health and well-being in a number of ways. Probably, the most important function of lipids is being the provider of an efficient and constant energy source. Fat provides 9 calories of energy per gram, or 2.25 times as much as either carbohydrate or protein. Fat is stored as such and can be easily activated if needed. In earlier days, survival was possible because of the energy provided by metabolic use of stored fat. Lipids are a group of substances of different structure that share the common feature of being soluble in solvents such as ether or benzene. The major lipids of the body are triglycerides, which contain a molecule of glycerol to which 3 fatty acids are bound. Phospholipids are substances in which glycerol carries only 2 fatty acids plus phosphoric acid and organic base such as choline or serine. Cholesterol is a member of the family of large complex molecules generically called steroids. It has the capacity to carry 1 molecule of fatty acids, that is cholesterol ester. Cell membranes are predominantly composed of phospholipids and cholesterol. Cell membranes grant stability to cells and control entry or release of chemicals into or from the cells. Lipids serve as effective insulators and help in maintaining body temperature. Important organs such as heart, kidneys, and reproductive organs are provided a protective cover by fat. Nerves are sheltered by a sheath that contains cholesterol, phospholipids, and other lipids. The animal organism carries a number of indispensable substances that catalyze chemical reaction in cells. These are termed as vitamins and are designated by letters. The B and C vitamins are soluble in water. The others, like vitamin A, D, E, and K, are insoluble in water but soluble in fats. They are transported in lipids in the blood and stored in the fat in the body. Each cell membrane has a particle of cholesterol in it. It comprises about 0.2% of the average body weight. Most of this cholesterol is present in the muscle, that is cell membrane, or brain, as insulation against trauma. Most of the cholesterol in the body is manufactured in the liver, and the food we intake makes moderately small contribution to this pool. Cholesterol, in turn, is the parent substance of a number of vital compounds. Among these are the bile acids that are necessary for proper absorption and digestion of fat. The corticosteroids such as cortisol and hydrocortisone that are essential to life. Progesterone, which is required for normal reproduction, and the male and the female sex hormones. While some of the fatty acids do not necessarily impact the blood cholesterol levels, their presence in the diet has been associated with a reduced risk of cardiovascular disease. They have been found to be critical for the development of normal vision and also to influence brain development in newborns. Conclusion. Let us summarize the key points of learning of this chapter. Carbohydrates are carbon compounds that contain large quantities of hydroxyl group. The simplest carbohydrates also contain either an aldehyde moiety. These are termed as polyhydroxyaldehydes or a ketone moiety, that is polyhydroxy ketones. All carbohydrates can be classified into 4 types, namely monosaccharides, disaccharides, oligosaccharides and polysaccharides. An oligosaccharide is made up of anywhere from 2 to 10 monosaccharide units linked by glycosidic bonds. Polysaccharides are much larger, containing hundreds of monosaccharide units. The presence of hydroxyl group allows carbohydrates to interrelate with the aqueous environment to participate in hydrogen bonding, both within and between chains. Derivatives of the carbohydrates can contain nitrogen, phosphates and sulfur compounds. Carbohydrates also can combine with the lipid to form glycolipids or with the protein to form glycoproteins. Lipids can be classified as derived, simple or complex according to their structure. The derived lipids include fatty acids and alcohols, which are the constituents for the simple and complex lipids. Simple lipids include fatty acids and alcohol components, which are aceglycerols, ether aceglycerols, sterols and their esters and wax esters. In general terms, simple lipid can be hydrolyzed to two different components, usually an alcohol and an acid. Complex lipids include glycerophospholipids, that is phospholipids, glyceryl glycolipids, that is glycolipids, and sphingolipids. These structures give away 3 or more different compounds in hydrolysis. Both carbohydrates and lipids play a major role in the well-being of human body. Unstable metabolism of lipids cause diseases like diabetes, fatty liver, lipoproteinemias, cell membrane issues, etc. One of the chief and important process in the biosphere, the segment of the earth in which life can occur that has allowed the evolution of life as it now exists, is the conversion by green plants of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere into carbohydrates using light energy from the sun. This process is called photosynthesis. It results in both the liberation of oxygen gas into the atmosphere and the transformation of light energy into the chemical energy of carbohydrates. The energy accumulated by plants during the formation of carbohydrates is used by animals to carry out mechanical work and to perform biosynthetic activities. Carbohydrates and lipids are a principal source of energy for human beings. Lipids provide energy for more duration than carbohydrates. Therefore, an individual's daily energy requirement may be supplied by carbohydrate, with most of the remainder coming from a variety of fat sources.